Well, the room looks a lot different from it did last week. We got spare seats today. Well, I've got good news and bad news. The bad news is the weather is not going to get any better today. The good news is you don't have to look at Carol Simmons this week. You get to see me.
Tell us what the good news is.
Tell us what?
Tell us what the good news is.
Well, I got it. You set me up for that one. But also, I want to say a shout out to Archie in case he's watching. Archie's had a terrible week. After being a COVID survivor, he had some terrible clotting problems, which resulted in a pulmonary embolism, and he is very fortunate to be here. It'll be a while before he's back in the saddle. But also a shout out to Greg Scarborough, who was suffering in the Florida Keys this week, and that's why Jay's got the clipboard over there.
That's terrible.
Tell him what he just sent you.
Yeah, Greg just sent a text and said he's at the Miami airport. It's raining and 39 degrees. Please wire me money so I might extend my vacation.
Yeah, don't hold your breath on that.
Hey, send him that $1 million bill.
Got some little funnies here to start out with. I found you can get old men jokes on the internet. You can get most anything you want. And the patient goes to the doctor and says, "Doctor, can you help me? I think I can see the future." The doctor said, "When did it start?" The patient said, "Next Friday." Guy went to the physical therapist, said he needed help. He had broken his arm in 2 different places. Physical therapist told him, just don't go to those places anymore. One retired man decided he would do a little kind deed and go to visit assisted living homes. A lot of people were getting over problems, and he would take his keyboard
right there
and play music for them. And then when he wound up his little act, he said, "Goodbye, folks, and I hope you get better." And then one old fellow in the back said, "Yeah, I hope you get better too." Okay. Our lesson today is a continuation of that which Carol started last week with Isaiah, when the Hebrews were wondering why they weren't getting God's blessings. PDQ. And she taught very beautifully, very eloquently on the need to be patient. Our follow-up lesson this week is about why they were not getting the blessings they thought they were going to get. And I'm not going to read the whole verse, but this is a continuation of Isaiah, and in which he chides the people, "If you offer your food to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted, then your light shall rise in the darkness, and your gloom be like noonday." There's a series of laws in the world, and I did some research, and yes, we have the Mosaic laws, but I even found some dates here from those that preceded the Mosaic laws. And we start out with the Egyptian laws of, this is a new one for me too, Mayat, in about the year, oh God, it was before, because there's a pattern here I want to show you. That was about 3000 BC. And they had 42 laws. And they're all, I've got a copy of them, I'm not going to dare read them to you, but they're all the things you do not do. Like, I have not made anyone cry. I have not stolen anyone's land. I have not slain a person. Things like that. 42. And although these were not codified and written down widely, that's the farthest back that I could find reference to. And then everybody knows about Hammurabi's code.
For not tooth for tooth.
Yeah, you know, I read through a lot of them and they couldn't have gotten anything done because nobody had any hands left. They were cutting off stuff like crazy, and I've got a copy of them. His was the first set of laws ever written down. And the one reason, and that was about 2400 BC. So 282 he had. And these weren't discovered until about 1900. We're seeing a pattern here. And then in roughly 600 BC comes the Mosaic laws. John's not here. I can ask this question because he would get. How many Mosaic laws were there? $613. See a pattern here? We start, we go up, we go up. Yet the Jews were saying, all right, we've waited, and we still don't get all this light that's coming to us. And in the scriptures, they're told, it is not the fast that I choose, but to loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to set the oppressed free. The old laws of the children of Israel were many, and they were pretty harsh. Some of them sound downright silly to us today. Okay, in that day, if you had fertile fields, you were considered to be a holy person. And if your crops failed, it was because you were a sinner. They looked upon it like that. Some of the Sabbath commands. You couldn't heal on the Sabbath. If somebody had a bad wound, you could not do anything to help them heal. You could do something to sort of keep it from getting any worse, but you couldn't heal. They use the story about how if you put cotton in your ear on Saturday night to help with an earache and it fell out on Sunday, you couldn't pick it up and put it back.
That was work.
That was work, and you were doing that. Some of them were the healing. We've all heard the story about how the ox falls in the ditch on the Sabbath. Well, Christ said, pull him out. The Jews said, if he's not going to die, leave him till the next day. That would have been considered unnecessary work. Only if the animal was near death did you ever pull them out. These get a little complicated sometimes. You could not tie a knot unless it could be untied with one hand. Yeah, that was how it's spelled out. You could not walk more than 3,000 feet on the Sabbath. But the way you get around that, you pitch a tent for a little while, and then you can walk another 3,000 feet. This is crazy. You could carry rainwater that was caught from the sky, but none that was drained from the roof. You could not build a fire. You could not put a fire out. You could not cook. Now, the one that Barclay talks about that's so funny, you could not carry objects that equal the weight of 2 figs. You could carry 1 fig, but if you got another one, that was considered a burden, and you were working on the Sabbath. It goes on and on like that. You could not break a dead limb off, or you were pruning your products. You couldn't You couldn't trim your hair or cut your fingernails. These just go on, and they're very convoluted and very confusing. So, and we say that was then, but what about today? This is written by a modern Jew. And of course, there's different categories about how to cook food, how to slaughter an animal. They even spell out all these things. And there were 39 major categories that total up to 613. It talked about even today, you're not allowed to pick up a needle and thread if you're a devout Jew. You cannot build a fire. You cannot tie a knot again, but it gets even worse. And I say that's opinion when I use the term worse. You're not to look in a mirror. It may bring out your vanity. You cannot rip a piece of paper for it resembles cutting. You cannot water a flower. And get this, you can't turn the lights on or turn them off. Because that's bringing out energy, which is similar to a fire. You can't wind the clock, yada, yada, yada. Can't cut with scissors. You can't even talk about making a deal on Monday. See how things were, what brought about this confusion. But the one that got me, and this is written from a source, a citable source by a modern Jew. One method to ease the difficulty of complying with the prohibition against work on the Sabbath was the concept of a Shabbos Goy, a non-Jew hired by an observant family to perform certain activities forbidden to the Jews on the Sabbath, such as starting their fires, turning their lights on and off. However, most Jews have turned to electric timers today. This you can't. This is not made up stuff here. So when Isaiah was addressing the Jews, the Jews had several things that were very much a part of their Sabbath. Of course, they had the prayer. They had the alms they would give, and the fasting. Those were three main things. In case any of you are not familiar with William Barclay, gosh, he has a great commentary, and it helps people like me out. Malcolm Bullock and I were talking about it, and he said, well, there's a set right over there on the other side of his room that he used. Things were not going for the children of Israel very good, even though they were fasting, even though they were giving alms, and even though they were praying. Why not? Fasting. This was done for several reasons. It was done to show discipline. It was done to help bring about keenness of mind. But they took it too far. They would mess up their hair. They would rub dirt on their face. They would tear their clothes to say, look how much I'm sacrificing. They would even take stuff to make their face look pale. It was meant to draw the attention of God and the attention of man. That's why the light didn't shine. It was supposed to be their proof of repentance, to be a substitute of true repentance. Christ talked about this and said, surely you will be paid in full. And I thought, wow, come on, this isn't good. I remember the old Dennis the Menace show? He had a lemonade stand one time, and he said, all you can drink lemonade, 5 cents. The guy laid down his nickel, said, that was good, I'll have some more. He says, no, that's all you can drink for 5 cents. And this is what Christ is telling you. If you want to get the attention of man, then you're paid in full. You got man's attention. You do not get the ear of God with this showy fasting and such as that. As a matter of fact, Jesus said, instead of fasting and looking so glum, you should go get fixed up, comb your hair, fix up nice, and people shouldn't even know you're fasting. Because that's the true meaning and the purpose of fasting. We go right into almsgiving. Barclay says, that is the most sacred of all religious duties. It should be given in secret, not public. Not the man who goes out and drops his coins into the offering plate and says, look what I did, and all this type stuff. It should not be showing. As a matter of fact, the best giving should be when you don't know who it's going to. And the one who receives it doesn't know who gave it. And it should be given in private, just like prayer. Almsgiving should be an instinctive outflow of a loving heart. It's not for duty, not for show. And now it's starting to affect the Jews saying, well, you know, maybe there is something to this. So we go to prayer. We've all heard, let me pull out.
Randy, I thought it was interesting that this farmer up in Indiana, someplace, gave $100 to a drugstore for people's needs. Did y'all read that in the news? Anyway, he did it for over 10 years. He took $100 to the drugstore, and he said, I want to help somebody, but I don't want to know who you help, and I don't want them to know who gave it. And he did that for every month for over 10 years, and nobody knew about it until he died.
And he was blessed, and the people who received it were blessed. And he got God's ear, I think, because we can't get God's attention. It's always there. Prayer. Okay. Oftentimes, the very tongues that had frequently and piously blessed gods were the very same mouths and tongues which cursed fellow men. Think about that. And you know, some people, they'll just pray and pray and pray and pray and make lofty public prayer. But in Ecclesiastes, it says, do not be quick with your mouth. Let your words be few. A dream comes when there are many cares, and many words mark the speech of a fool. Pray in private. Talk to God. Listen to God. They were not doing this. They were making a show of everything they did. So, you've got a confusion. You've got 613 Mosaic laws. No wonder it was a mishmash. And then Jesus comes on the scene. And Jesus says, this is the way you're supposed to live. He showed us and he told us. Matthew 17. Dan, I told you I was going to make it New Testament. Thank goodness for the Old Testament. Thank goodness for the New. Thank goodness we're not stuck in the Old Testament. Jesus said, do not think that I have come to abolish the law of the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For I tell you that your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. If you do that, you will certainly know. For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. He's saying, do the job. Do it. Don't make a scene of praying. Just do it. He is contrasting the external righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees with the interior righteousness that proceeds from the heart, which is to characterize his followers. He tells us to let your light so shine that people can see your good works. Now, Martin Luther, I know wouldn't like this, but you cannot have faith without works. You can't have works without faith a lot of times. So, what does Jesus tell us that we should do amid this confusion? I want to get it right. Matthew 22. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment? And he said, you shall love your God and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments, all the law, rest all the laws and of the prophets. Got more and more and more. We get it down to something simple. He showed us. He told us. And this works. Does anybody, hey Vic, you probably know the answer to this one. What's the oldest constitution on earth? It's ours. Yet they say we're a new country. And the reasons, it was simple. And it had survived. We're the oldest republic on earth, believe it or not. It was simple. It was straightforward. It may be getting more complicated, but it was simple. And the same thing that Christ did when he came and taught us this. He made it simple, not easy, but simple. The Mosaic laws are not inherently bad or good. Who can argue with the 10 Commandments? That's the basis of all of these. And we can't say that it's all bad, but some of it is unnecessary because Christ took what was terribly complicated and terribly confusing and made it very simple. And you could almost, not quite, but almost reduce it from 2 down to 1. Love. That's what it's about. And reverence for God and respect for your fellow man. It can be done. We've still got a job to do if we keep our focus and keep it simple. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, Randy.
And I'll see you next year in 2 quarters or something like that. Speaking of 2 quarters, we got a lot of football today, hadn't we?
Yeah.
6.
Let's see. We recognize Archie, we recognize Greg, and
one other thing about recognizing Ricky Miller and Bob Harris and the group of folks who headed to Florida to help with some of the rebuilding and disaster relief in Florida this coming week. So we want to be sure to keep thinking of them and keeping them in our prayers as well.